Dean Kremer has instantly became the Twins' best trade deadline deal.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Twins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm CJ Baumgartner, Twins writer for Zone Coverage. What a start by Dean Kremer yesterday. We're going to talk all about it. Want to remind you, today's episode is brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. And by the way, throughout today's show, we are going to talk about how Matt Wallner is already out of time in the Minnesota Twins organization. He's done, got no future in it. We're going to explain why and what comes next for him. Also, we are going to take a look at the Twins and their patience level for somebody like Alan Roden and why it needs to be higher and he needs more opportunity. We are going to talk about all of that and more in today's show. But first, our top story today, the Twins' best trade deadline deal this year is already Dean Kremer. It's already won. And I think if you would have asked me, and there are other Twins fans included in this, which guy are you least excited about for the Minnesota Twins at the trade deadline, it would have been Dean Kremer. I mean, seriously, we did a post-trade deadline reaction episode to the Dean Kremer deal, and we said, a little bit of an overpay. Is this guy any good? You're just getting an innings eater. What are you doing? And look, that belief at the time was justified. But like anything, when the games start being played, you got to adjust and see how things are moving. And Dean Kremer, through his 2 starts already, has become just a really, really big piece of this Twins team and has already become the best trade deadline deal when you're talking about value, when you're talking about what you're getting out of them. So there's a couple ways to look at value. One is, again, just giving up what you gave up. I know the Twins gave up a teenage prospect, and sometimes people go, oh, that's just a throwaway because what are the odds they're actually going to become good? And I understand that. Where my thing at the time with Dean Kremer was, well, you're trading. Why don't you trade some of the older prospects? At least give your younger prospects a chance to develop and see what happens. But either way, if you look at that, the Twins gave up the least in terms of prospect capital in a Dean Kremer trade, at least in terms of, again, kind of that long-term instant help. If you just see what the Orioles are getting back, the Twins probably gave up the least if you're just looking at helping the Orioles in the near future in this trade. But with Dean Kremer, why really he's the best value is just because you've gotten 2 good starts already out of a starting pitcher during a stretch playoff run, and that automatically just makes you the best deadline deal, unless Dean Kremer forgets how to pitch. He has already became the Twins' best deadline deal because he's given you 2 big starts. And this is even why I think we've seen good things out of Jeff Hoffman. I've really liked what A.J. Minter has brought so far. I think Tommy Nance has been okay for the Twins in terms of their other 3 trade deadline, Tommy Nance kind of trade deadline adjacent moves. I think they've all been good. I don't think the Twins have whiffed yet on a trade. But why I think Dean Kremer's already became the most successful trade the Twins have had is just because if you look at the inverse, right? If you got Dean Kremer, and if you're the Twins, you traded for Dean Kremer, comes on your team, and has just 2 blow-up starts, well, now he's already the worst trade, right? If you go up by that way. So if you flip it around and he's put together 2 really good starts, and I know the Twins only went 1-1 in those games, but still provided the Twins good value, gave the Twins an opportunity to win the game, did everything he was supposed to do, that's a win because there's so little of the season left when you trade for someone at the trade deadline. There is 2 months of a season left. And so if you trade for a guy on an expiring contract, and I know Kramer's under team control for next year, but if you trade for a guy like Minter with an expiring contract, and AJ Minter came in and had 2 blow-up outings, lost your team the game, like you were up by a run, came in, got hit hard, you lose, and he did that multiple times, 2 to 3 times. You lost the trade. You're done. No matter what good value he gives you, he's already lost you 3 games. Like that. So again, not that that's happened, but that's the inverse. And so when Dean Kremer pitches well in those 2 games, that's why he's the best deal. He's already given you 2 great starts, and you have plenty of opportunity to see those good starts continue to manifest. And you can say, well, yeah, but you're going to get more high leverage value out of Hoffman. You're going to get more high leverage value out of Minter. These are guys that are going to be pitching in 1-run games. You don't think you get value out of that? And I would say, yes, you do, but you get more value in terms of the fact that Kremer is just the starting pitcher. They're more valuable because you need them to pitch more innings. Even though those innings aren't always high leverage or big spots, they still are. You need to rely on that guy for much longer of a period of time than you need to rely on a guy like Minter or Hoffman or Nance. And so when you look at all of that together, you just see why Dean Kremer has been the most valuable Twin acquired at the trade deadline, because he's already given you 2 excellent outings. I mean, yesterday against the Baltimore Orioles, 7 innings pitched, 1 hit allowed, believe just 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, 1 run, which was just a home run to Gunnar Henderson. That's it. That was the only mistake he did all night. Took down a Baltimore Orioles team that he definitely had a revenge game mindset against. But again, you have 2 really, really good starts, puts you in a position to win both games. You go 1-1 in that stretch. And for the fact, again, with Kremer is just that he is a starting pitcher. So not only do you get 2 good appearances out of him, but you get them as a starting pitcher, and they come during a portion of the season where every single game now is put under this microscope just because there is so little left as we get to the final month and a half of the regular season. And so these trade deadline deals, they're scrutinized hard because there is just a limited amount of time in the schedule to make things happen. And so if you are bad in that stretch, you are hammered for being bad, because that is all of the value you are just washing away. But for the Twins, getting those 2 starts already for this stretch run has been huge to have Dean Kremer in the rotation, especially when you consider the fact that Joe Ryan is on the IL. So you traded for Dean Kremer for a situation like this where you didn't have to dip into a rookie in Ryan Gallagher or dip into a guy in St. Paul who's going to throw 3-4 innings in a bullpen game, basically, or having to lean into Kendry Rojas or something like that. He allowed your rotation, at least for the next couple weeks, to have a little bit more depth. And he showed up by having 2 great starts in that period as well. And it's why, even though the relievers have been good, you just get so much more value out of a starting pitcher. And that's why I think that Dean Kremer already has been the Twins' best trade deadline deal. And not only that, you still have Dean Kremer for another year of team control. And next year he can blow up and maybe we revisit this thing. But as of right now, instantly, he's the top trade that the Twins have got at the deadline because of his 2 really good starts he has put together already. So a big deal for the Twins in that aspect as well. And again, you have him for next year. So you have under contract for next year, Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryan, Dean Kremer. You throw those 3 guys into your rotation already, Taj Bradley, Mick Abel. Boom. You already have your starting rotation set. You have guys like Ryan Gallagher who can help give you a little bit of depth as well. And then after that, things, again, do you lean into Zebby Matthews? Do you move Zebby Matthews to the bullpen? What do you do with David Festa? There's a few other questions you have to ask. But Dean Kremer not only has helped solidify the rotation this year, but does give the Twins a really interesting piece onto what they can do next year. And briefly, I just want to talk about what has helped Dean Kremer so far in this stretch as a Twin. Because for Kremer, the Twins have really, really upped his usage of the 4-seamer, and they have kind of got this 3-headed monster, really, with the 4-seam fastball. He also has the splitter. He has the cutter. Now, he's thrown the 4-seamer, or threw it yesterday, 34% of the time, compared to throwing it 24% of the time when he was with the Orioles. The splitter, he pitched it a little bit less, pitched the cutter about the same amount, albeit just a little bit more, and he's basically barely used the sinker in yesterday's game. And what this all means is that for the Twins, they are leaning more into that 4-seamer to set up the splitter, set up the cutter, and his cutter yesterday had 5 whiffs on 10 swings, and he got 2 strikeouts off the pitch as well. So a really, really good day for him. And that fastball is kind of used more as that setup pitch You're not really going to get a ton of whiffs on it. You're not really going to kind of use that to retire hitters, but what you are going to use it as is a pitch to set the splitter, set up the cutter. I know he's a curveball, sinker, slider in that mix as well, but those are the three pitches he's really going to rely on. The Twins have changed the arm angle a little bit. They're working on some things, and this is where you take a guy and you look at somebody and go, hey, he's been okay for them. He had a 6.5 ERA coming into his Twins tenure, and now has had 2 earned runs throughout 13 innings of pitching in a Twins uniform, which is a really, really good start for Kremer, and it's why he's already been the Twins' best trade deadline acquisition. We're going to talk more on our Twins baseball deep dive today, including talking about why Alan Roden needs more time and more at-bats before the Twins send him back down to AAA. We also are going to talk about another Twins left-handed hitting corner outfielder in AAA in Matt Wallner and why his Twins tenure is over. Talking about that and more coming up after this. Make baseball season more this year. And on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade on every single game. And you know what? Why don't I give you a quick example here? The Minnesota Twins right now, because of recording of this podcast, are trading at 51% to beat the Baltimore Orioles tonight, meaning that a $100 trade pays out $189.11 if they win. And on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. Download the Kalshi app and use code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade 10. That's Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory. Locked on Twins today, also brought to you by Dose. Can we talk about one of the most underrated organs in your body? It's your liver. It's your body's filter, processing everything you consume and performing more than 500 functions every day. It's involved in things like energy production, digestion, fat metabolism, and vitamin storage, so it's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. That's why giving your liver daily support can be an important part of building healthy habits. Dose for Your Liver is a clinically backed liver health supplement designed to support daily liver function. Unlike another capsule or powder, Dose comes in as a liquid 2-ounce daily shot that tastes just like fresh squeezed orange juice. It's 0 sugar, 0 junk, and 0 calories, making it an easy addition to your daily routine. And if your schedule is anything like mine, I mean, I'm balancing going to games, travel, work, late nights, and a packed schedule overall. And that's why simple routines matter. So getting Dose, just a quick 2-ounce shot that can easily become part of your everyday routine, very, very helpful. Ready to give your liver the support it deserves? Head to dosedaily.com/LockedOnMLB or enter LockedOnMLB to get 35% off your first subscription. Again, that's dosedaily.co/LockedOnMLB. Your body does so much for you. Let's do something for it. That's dosedaily.co/LockedOnMLB for 35% off your first month's subscription. Alan Roden deserves a better chance at the big leagues, especially with Walker Jenkins looming. And there's been a lot of talk about Alan Roden. And if you look at Roden, if you look at his kind of just baseline stats, if you just look at the slash line, you'll see somebody who has a .208 batting average and a slugging percentage that is just barely over 500. And you say, what are the Twins doing? Well, they have a 527 OPS. What are we wasting our time for? And I'd like to say in this entire stretch that Alan Roden does deserve a better chance because, and this is twofold, really, for Alan Roden, because there's been a lot of talk from the Twins fan base of, we want Walker Jenkins, send down Alan Roden, bring up Walker Jenkins. And look, that is a simple solution if you're going to do it. because Roden is a left-handed hitting corner outfielder. Walker Jenkins, a left-handed hitting corner outfielder. Austin Martin had himself a really nice game last night, hit a home run, dropped down a bunt that would have been a single, ended up kind of sparking that late rally in the eighth inning, or in the seventh inning, beg your pardon, last night. So he's keeping himself safe for now. But Roden, if you wanted to get Walker Jenkins up here, that would be the easiest button to push. Okay, all right. But I wouldn't do that quite yet. And not to say that I don't want Walker Jenkins up here. I do. I would like Walker Jenkins up here today. But if I'm at the Twins looking at Alan Roden, I won't be so ready just to give up on this little stretch of games in the big leagues and call it a wasted opportunity just yet. And I think that there's two reasons for that. Because Roden's surface level numbers, as we just mentioned, they don't shine. A 526 OPS, a 208 batting average, no home runs. Like, I get it. But I just need to look in these games throughout here, because if you look, Alan Roden has appeared in 22 games for the Twins so far this year. He hasn't gotten enough at-bats. Now, he's appeared in 22 games over the last month. That seems like a decent amount of games, and it is. But he's only had 11, which is half of the games he's been in, where he's recorded 3 or more plate appearances. So sometimes he gets in a game, but it's one at-bat, kind of platooning late in the game, or he's the starter, gets a couple at-bats, and then gets pinch hit for Austin Martin, and then he's out of the game. And not that I'm saying that I'm against the platooning or anything like that. I understand it, but it just feels like we really have just not a big enough sample size to call Alan Roden's month here up in the big leagues a failure and to send him back down to AAA to rot. I think his underlying numbers suggest that he is getting very unlucky. And I think more at-bats would sort this thing out. Because if you look at the numbers for Alan Roden, his average exit velocity, 87.8 miles an hour, not necessarily the highest, but he is squaring up pitches. He is timing them up right. Even if he's not barreling the ball, he is squaring them up with a 29.1% squared up rate. He doesn't chase, 26.4% chase rate. He doesn't swing and miss. He doesn't strike out. He generates a lot of walks, which helps out as well, but he just hasn't been given a ton of opportunity to do that just yet. If you look at, again, the weighted batting average, his weighted batting average is up to 266, which I know for some of you batting average people out there, that may not be high enough, but it certainly is higher than the 208, which is to suggest that he is 58 points higher of a hitter than he's actually showing. And I know underlying numbers, real numbers, you need to actually see the production. I get that. But in such a small sample size of games, you can't quite look at the full kind of box score stats and say, this isn't working out. When, again, he's been able to, under the radar, he's doing the right things at the plate. He's not chasing. He's timing up the ball right. He's, again, I think there's just a lot of when he hits it, he's kind of favors between that, either kind of hitting it weakly or hitting it really, really hard, because he has 42.9% hard hit rate. So again, on the times he is hitting it hard and squaring it up, it's going well. There's just a lot of weak contact that needs to get worked out. But again, I want to give Roden more of a chance before I send him back down to AAA. Because if you send him back down to AAA, as we talked about in the first segment, there is not a lot of time left in this season. And so when you send a guy down like that, you're likely not calling him back up after a day or two. And if you send him down for a couple weeks, well, by that time, you're knocking on the door of September. And are you really going to call him back up again for a stretch run unless you have to? Are you willing to basically punt on all of Alan Roden for 2026, which would just be, again, a very weird thing to do, especially because the Twins were so adamant that they wanted Alan Roden in the trade for Louis Varland. Now, I love Rojas in that deal, but and I think Roden can be a nice kind of role player for this team, but burying him on this major league roster and just kind of having him be that guy. I mean, he was seen as a guy that could play some center field. Twins decided he wasn't going to play center field, and that's fine. And again, he's not going to hit against lefties. That's fine. But he just runs into this issue where against right-handed pitching, it's hard to find time because Luke Keyshaw is just going to be the everyday center fielder until Byron Buxton comes back. And then you also have in left field Trevor Larnach, who's just going to stay there because Josh Bell is going to continue to be the DH. You have Brooks Lee at third, Kalen Culpepper at short, Royce Lewis at first. Then you have Cody Clemens working there at second base. You've also mixed some Ryan Kreidler in there. There's also, again, some other pieces that you can move around for the Twins, but it does feel like that there is an opportunity for Roden to get a lot more playing time against right-handed pitching as the everyday right fielder. The Twins have just seen a lot of lefties this year as well. That's just kind of been Roden's undoing as well. But he's got to be able to take advantage of the time because he's not going to get many opportunities. And especially with Byron Buxton even knocking on the door of coming back, not any day now, but again, trending toward that return. Well, Roden's going to be the easiest demotion when Buxton comes back. So he has a limited amount of time to try and make this up, not just before Walker Jenkins, but before Byron Buxton as well. And Walker Jenkins is going to get here when he gets here. But if you are, Jenkins just has to take priority over Roden. And if you're the Twins, you need to give Roden more of an opportunity to show you he can do something. Now, maybe there is more long-term hope with Roden. Maybe it's, you're not going to have Larnach next year. Your outfield is going to look different next year. So Roden is going to be a piece in 2027. He just kind of has to hang on in 2026. And I think that's fair. But I just would like to see more. I don't want to see him rotting away on the bench, because if that's the case, well, then just send him down and call somebody else up to rot on the bench and at least give him at-bats in the minor leagues. If you're only going to give him kind of 1 to 2 at-bats a game, that's really not doing him that many favors. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. Again, Roden just deserves more of a chance because his underlying numbers suggest that he's a better hitter than what his box score stats are showing. All right, we are going to continue our talk of Twins baseball, including a little discussion on Matt Wallner being done in the Twins organization, all but officially. We are going to break that down more coming up after this. Before we continue with today's show, it's time for the Everyday Icon presented by Stance. As the official sock partner of Major League Baseball, Stance knows greatness isn't built in a single moment. It's earned over time through consistency, preparation, and showing up every day. That's why each week we are recognizing one player whose performance embodies those same qualities. And this week's Everyday Icon is Dean Kremer. Look at his start from last night. 7 innings pitched, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and 2 earned runs in his first 2 starts as a Minnesota Twin. And again, if you just look at all of this from Dean Kremer and the 2 starts you've gotten from him, just been awesome, giving them a chance to win every day. And looks like they maybe have found a diamond in the rough here at the trade deadline and have flipped a buy low candidate into somebody that could give high potential for the Twins. And again, that's just why he is the Everyday Icon. And the Everyday Icon is presented by Stance. Check out the Icon collection from Stance. Premium comfort, performance, and durability designed for whatever your day brings. Use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for 20% off your first purchase. Stance, the official sock partner of Major League Baseball. Learn more at stance.com. Matt Wallner is officially out of time as a Minnesota Twin. It just feels like the Twins have given up on him. Look at what we just talked about with Alan Roden. There's not a ton of time for a left-handed hitting corner outfield bat that pretty much can only play right field. And for Wallner, only can play right field. And there's not even time with Josh Bell to really be that DH. And if you see the fact that Roden is up here and Wallner isn't, Roden has passed Matt Wallner. Walker Jenkins has passed Matt Wallner up at this point. And even if Wallner gets a call up before Jenkins does, as you look at long-term organizationally, Walker Jenkins appears more to be that corner outfielder than Matt Wallner is. You also have Emmanuel Rodriguez, who's kind of in this mix as well. Twins have a lot of left-handed hitting corner outfield bats, and Wallner, as we talked about going into this season, you can go all the way back to our shows we did in February and March, and we said at the beginning that this is going to be a make or break year for Matt Wallner. We are going to know by the end of the year if Wallner has a future in the Twins organization or not. And it feels like we are just kind of counting down the days of Matt Wallner's final game in the Minnesota Twins organization because he's been passed up by these guys and by the fact that we've seen him mash in AAA. I mean, my goodness, he is the best St. Paul Saint ever in the AAA era. I mean, he has just crushed pitching since going back down to the minor leagues. If you just look at over the last 90 days, he has a 273 batting average, a 382 on base, a 574 slug with a 956 OPS. If you just want to look over the last month's worth of games, he has an OPS of 1075. Over the last week, a 1,000 OPS. Over the last month, he's hit 6 home runs. Over the last 90 days, he's hit 21 home runs. He's driven in runners. He has 60 RBI. He has, again, just done really well. He's had 18 RBI over the last month. He's been somebody who's hit incredibly well at AAA. And you'd think, oh my goodness, he's crushing. Shouldn't that get him a call up? No. And if you're the Twins, basically what they're telling you by this action, even though they're not saying it out loud, you got to read people by what their actions are doing with the Twins and with their moves here. They're basically saying, we've seen you crush AAA pitching before. That doesn't move the needle for us. And what they're saying is, we've seen you hit at the big league level enough to know that that's probably the hitter you are, or maybe a little bit better version of that, but there's not much more upside that can be tapped. So even though he crushes as a St. Paul Saint, it's kind of that, like, I'm not saying that there's a one-to-one comparison here, but like, remember Jake Cave? The Jake Cave would come up for the Twins and maybe have a moment or two, but he'd just be fine, below average, outfielder, could play some center field. But when you'd send him down to St. Paul, he'd immediately be their best hitter. Everyone's like, oh, wow, maybe they should call up Cave. And then they do, because there's an injury. All of a sudden he comes up and plays okay, but not like, never wows you, and then gets sent back down and then wows you in AAA. And that's kind of what's been defined as a quad A player, somebody who's too good for AAA, but hasn't quite figured out how to be a everyday big league player. And that kind of feels like where we're at with Matt Wallner. Probably a little bit better than a quad A player, but still in that kind of realm of, he crushes AAA and he's got nothing to prove there. But in the big league level, he's so inconsistent and so tough to get a read on that you just can't keep him on a big league roster. And this is the thing, if it's hard for Roden to get playing time, it's really hard for Wallner to be able to get up there and do the same things, because at least Roden is better defensively. And Wallner defensively was one of the worst, according to outs above average and defensive runs saved, and has been one of the worst corner outfielders in all of baseball this year. So at least you get defensive value. At least there's some base running value with Roden. You just don't quite get that with Matt Wallner. He is a one type of player: power, home runs, and doubles. And if you don't get that out of him, you just get a high strikeout guy who doesn't move very well in the outfield. And that's tough to find an everyday role for. Now, could Matt Wallner get a call up at some point if the Twins, maybe, let's say, they want to get Roden everyday at-bats in AAA where he can continue to get a ton of them, let Wallner come up on the bench and rot and he'll barely play? Maybe. I mean, there's maybe a chance that the Twins decide to do that. But even if they do that, it still kind of just shows that his era as a Minnesota Twin is over. Like, he is not going to be in this organization next year. Now, whether the Twins just straight up cut bait, or whether the Twins look at maybe finding a trade in the offseason, if you just look at Matt Wallner and the trajectory and how much time he's accrued, he is a free agent after the 2030 season. So there is an opportunity maybe for the Twins to just let him crush in AAA, let those numbers look good, and let the team take a chance on him. Maybe even give him a call up at the end of the year, depending on where you're at in the standings. Give him a chance to kind of showcase, have a good week or two to end the year, and then use it to trade him in the offseason. But either way, Matt Wallner is, I mean, he could be like an Ed Julian type player where you just kind of flip him in the offseason for not a ton, but basically you clear up a roster spot and get a lottery ticket back. And that's where you could be at with Matt Wallner. Because again, he's just been passed in the organization by these prospects that are much younger than him and have more upside than him at this point. The Twins have said crushing in AAA doesn't really matter for where you're at, because we've seen enough of you in the big leagues to know that you're just not a player that we can rely on as a piece of this core. And with Walker Jenkins ascending to the big leagues at any point, I mean, again, if Larnach is taking left field, the home for Jenkins throughout the end of the year, whenever he gets up here, is the starting right fielder. And there's just no room for Wallner to come up and get consistent at-bats. So let him stay down in AAA, let him mash, and just kind of, for a lack of a better term, they're just burying him there to figure out the end of the year, and then they'll see what happens at the end of this year, what they end up doing with him. But again, it's tough because Matt Wallner is a guy who back in 2023 looked like he was going to be a big piece of this team going forward. But in 2024 and 2025, and even in 2026, just such inconsistencies. But in 2026, you really just never saw that player in Matt Wallner that you saw even in 2024 and 2025 when he had been sent down and came back. At least when he came back, he figured things out and looked good. But in 2026, he was so poor, and there were so many options that you could draw from at that point that it really felt like, you know what, there's just not room for him. And even if you look past the Rodens, even if you look past the Jenkins, there, even Emmanuel Rodriguez, you still have guys like Hendry Mendez who are there. There are just so many more options for the Twins to go with. And unfortunately for Wallner, I would have loved for him to be a Twin long-term and have that big power bat in the middle of the lineup, but it just didn't work out that way. And if you're the Twins, you have so many different options that you just can't wait around forever. And you have to decide on some of these guys. And hopefully Wallner turns it around somewhere else, but it appears that it's just not going to be in the Minnesota Twins organization anymore. So again, Matt Wallner officially out of time as a Minnesota Twin. All right, that's going to wrap up today's show. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Twins. You can find me on X at BombCJ30. You can also follow the show at Locked On Twins on X as well. By the way, like and subscribe. Really does help out our page. We are so close to 2,500 subscribers to the YouTube page. Let's get that number up, please. We are so close. Continue to find all of our content here. It's been great covering this season. Let's go follow this team down the stretch run together. And I want to thank you for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm CJ Baumgartner. See ya.